Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how to determine the market demand for your product or service. Last week, we dove into determining how to know what your customer is willing to buy, which is extremely critical because if you don't know what they want to buy, how can you offer the right thing? But this week, we're really diving in to knowing, is there enough demand for it? Because let's face it, if there's not enough demand for your product, it doesn't matter how amazing you are at it. There's no one there to buy it. Just so, for example, think about it this way. If you were, let's say, a typewriter repair person, you could be the best at it. But when was the last time you saw an actual typewriter in an office somewhere? I know I haven't seen them in ages. You'll go to most office supply stores and, well, they don't carry them anymore. Everything's digital. So in that case, you'd find it to be very difficult to get clients and customers. So it's always important to know before you go into something, it doesn't matter if people want to buy it. If there's not enough people, well, then, you're not going to be in business very long. So here's a simple process to help determine if a market's going to be able to support your product or service, because you want to know this before you go any further in this whole evolution of your business. So the first thing is your product relevant? And what I mean by that is it something that people care about today? So using the typewriter example, while it's an important piece of technology, it's just not used anymore because there's faster and more modern ways to do things. So this is how we have to look at the relevancy of a particular product. So someone for years, they could have been, had an amazing business doing that one thing, but because they didn't evolve into what the market needed now, which would be, printers, then they'd go out of business. So you have to look at your particular product and service and ask yourself that question. Is it relevant to what is going on today? If it's not, then you have to reevaluate what you're doing to get something in place that is relevant, because relevancy matters. Because if something's not relevant, it doesn't matter how great or amazing it is, no one's going to buy. Which leads me to another point, that many times when it comes to a product, while it can be relevant, it might not be the right time. So here's an example with that in terms of grocery delivery. The first grocery delivery things where you could buy groceries online actually took place about in 2000, so 17 years ago. But at that stage, people were just entering that whole world of buying things online, so that uncertainty. Well, I don't know if I want to put my credit card out there and things like that. But it was an amazing innovation. So even though it was innovative and there was a small demand, it wasn't enough. So essentially, that particular company, it failed. However, you look at it today, there's a multitude of companies out there that will deliver all types of groceries to your front door. So the relevancy changed. Still a great product, but it wasn't relevant at that time. So sometimes you have to look at it as the timing is not right for a product. That's why relevancy matters. The second thing you want to look at is how many competitors are there in the marketplace? And you might be thinking, but I want to be the only one. Well, if you're the only one, there might be a reason for it. So, competition is a great thing because that means that people are wanting to buy a particular service. So here's a great example. Look at cell phone service. There's a multitude of carriers out there. There's tons of different handsets because people want all different levels of phones. So think about it for a moment. You'll have people that want to spend no more than $50 on a phone or $20 or whatever. And then there's people who have no problem spending $1,000 on a phone. So there's plenty of competition because the market is big enough. That's why you want competitors out there, because it shows that there is a demand. Now, you want to make sure you go into a market where there's room to grow and not where it's completely saturated, because then it's a little bit harder to gain a market share. But in your local area, wherever you're doing business at, if there's people that are buying it, that means with competitors, they're spending money on Facebook ads, they're spending money on Google ads, and so forth. And if they're doing that, that means they're making money. So that's why you want competition, because then you can see if they're spending money, then, oh, there must be enough people in this market that I can go after too. So the third thing you want to look at is, what are similar products or services in the marketplace? You might be thinking, well, why do I want to look at that? It's quite simple. When people are buying a product, many times they're not just looking at one particular product. They're looking at other things. So in that case, with your business, you don't want to just be thinking about, well, I just have one product. Look at your competitors, because they might have a similar product to you, but then they'll also have something else that people buy at the same time. So here's a great example of it. When you go to Amazon and you look at products that people are buying, they give you suggestions, say that people also looked at this product, or they'll give a combo and people will buy this one in conjunction with a particular product. That's what you want to look for, because this increases your bottom line. And it shows that if people are buying one thing, they're buying another, there's more demand for a particular solution. So this is why you're looking at buying patterns. You're looking at what's going on, because then it gives you two entry points into a particular market for a solution. And that's what you want. The more ways that you can go into providing solutions to a marketplace means you can capture that much more, because you can get a lot more market share with two products than you can with one, especially if people are buying more than one thing. So I want you to keep that in mind. Now, the last thing I want you to look at is, what locations are large enough to support your product or service? And if you're doing things online, well, that's great, because there's a much larger audience. But depending on what type of business it is, if you're a local business, are you thinking, oh, I want to open up a store? You need to look at, is the demographic, are the demographics there? Do they match the demands of your product? So you might have something, let's say that you're in the world of like high-end jewelry. You might not want to move to a small town, because the number of people there who are able to afford your products and services might be a small handful compared to going to a major city like New York, of Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, and so forth. So you need to keep that in mind with your particular service. As much as you want to offer in a particular town, it might be a challenge. So here's an example. If you look at some of the smaller towns like here in the U.S., you'll find that there might be only, let's say, 2 or 3 realtors, 1 or 2 plumbers, and so on. Well, there's a reason for that. Because the market is of a certain size, there's enough business to go around to those handful of people. But once you start getting too many competitors in a particular marketplace and it's not big enough, you experience what's known as that law of diminishing returns. So the pie is not getting any bigger, so you're having to cut it up in more ways, and that means more people are losing. And that's not what you want when you're trying to grow a business. That you want to go someplace where there's enough market demand that people will buy from you because you are an option. And there's enough business to go around, so like, oh no, this person's opening their doors. It's going to cause us to lose 30% of our market share because there's only, 5,000 people here. Well, you want to look at what's going to make sense for your location. So that might mean doing business in a different way. So, and this is reason why for a lot of businesses too, depending on what you're doing, you might have a local component that you're servicing people, but at the same time, you might be looking at how can you sell products and services online as well, because there's a bigger audience that you can target. So that's what you really want to look at. When you put all these things together, this helps you determine the market demand, the market size of what you're able to offer. So if something meets these requirements, then you can be able to move on. And that's why we're going to discuss next week how to know if you're really passionate about it, because here's the short answer to it, and this is that little preview for next week. Once you know that people are buying it, and then if there's enough market for it, you have to know if you like it or not. Because if you don't like it or not, it doesn't matter. Because think about how many people wake up on a Monday morning and go, oh, yeah, it's Monday. So we're going to dive in to determine how you can know if you have that passion for it. And that following week, we're going to talk about how do you make money with it. So tune in next week for that episode. And make sure that you hit the subscribe button and you share this episode with people, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs who need to know the information on how to know if there's enough market share for their business so they can thrive and build the lifestyle that they've been dreaming of and make it a reality.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.